Someone has poisoned you, sir. Park Jae-won looked up from his breakfast table. He was holding a soup spoon in his hand. In front of him was a bowl of warm rice porridge. He looked confused, like he did not hear well. What did you say? He asked. What are you talking about? Are you joking? Benita stood at the edge of the breakfast table. She was holding a glass of water with both hands. She shook her head fast. It is not a joke, sir, she said in a loud voice. Please, sir, do not eat the porridge. The one with the sesame oil on it. Do not eat it, sir. Park Jae-won looked at her for a moment. He did not understand. Then he laughed a small, unsure laugh. Benita, that is a very strange thing to say in the morning, he said. Why would you say that someone has poisoned me? Benita moved closer. She put the glass of water next to his bowl. Then she leaned in and spoke quietly. I saw her last night, Benita said. I saw Miss Kim So-yeon in the kitchen. She was crushing pills and mixing them into the sesame oil. She put the sesame oil jar back in the fridge. Then she made the top look smooth so nobody would know. Park Jae-won's smile disappeared, but he still shook his head slowly. No, he said. No, Benita. You did not understand well. Kim So-yeon will never and can never do something like that. She is going to be my wife soon. Benita looked at the bowl of porridge. Then she looked back at him. Sir, please do not eat it. Park Jae-won breathed out slowly and put the spoon down. Benita, listen to me, he said in a calm but serious voice. This is very serious. You cannot say things like that about people, especially not about someone who lives in this house. Are you sure you did not see something else? Maybe vitamins? Maybe medicine for a headache? Benita shook her head again. This time she looked more serious. No, sir. She had a small white bottle. She crushed the pills with a spoon and mixed them into the sesame oil. I was standing right there. She did not know I was there at first. Park Jae-won leaned back in his chair. He crossed his arms. He still did not fully believe her. If what you are saying is true, he said slowly, then why would she do that? And why would she let you see it? Benita stopped for a moment. Then she looked down at her hands. She spoke even more quietly. Because she saw me, Benita said. I dropped a spoon and it made a noise. She turned around and saw me standing by the door. Park Jae-won felt something uncomfortable in his chest, but he was still not ready to believe it. And then what happened? He asked. Benita swallowed hard. She did not get angry, Benita said. She smiled and called me to come closer. She went down on her knees and told me that sometimes grown-up people have secrets. Park Jae-won's eyes got smaller as he looked at her carefully. What else did she say? He asked. Benita looked up at him. She gave me money, Benita said. A lot of money. She said if I did not tell anyone what I saw, she would give my mother enough money so she would never have to work as a cleaner again. She said we could move to a better place. She told me it was just medicine to make you sleep more. She said I should not worry. Park Jae-won's face slowly changed. All feeling left his face. She tried to buy your silence? He asked quietly. Benita nodded. Yes, sir. I told her okay, but I did not mean it. Park Jae-won did not speak for a few seconds. Then he looked at the porridge bowl again. The sesame oil was sitting on top of the warm porridge, slowly mixing in. This is a very big thing you are saying, Benita, he said. You understand that, right? I cannot just believe something like this without proof. Benita looked at him for a moment. Then she said something that surprised him. Then make her eat it, Benita said. Park Jae-won blinked. What? He asked. Tell Miss Kim So-yeon to eat the porridge, Benita said. She pointed at the bowl. If I am lying, then it is just rice porridge and sesame oil. Nothing will happen. But if I am telling the truth, she will not eat it. Park Jae-won looked at her. The kitchen was very quiet now. You want me to ask my future wife to eat my breakfast just to test if she is trying to poison me? He asked slowly. Benita nodded. Yes, sir. Before he could say anything else, they heard the sound of heels coming down the hallway. Benita stepped back quickly and looked down at the floor. Kim So-yeon walked into the kitchen smiling like every other morning. Good morning, she said brightly. Are you still not done with your porridge? Park Jae-won held the bowl and remembered Benita's words. He looked at Kim So-yeon and smiled. "You are right," he said. "Actually, why do you not take a spoonful first? Show me how good it is." Kim So-yeon laughed a little, but there was something tight in her smile. "Do not be silly," she said. "I already ate earlier. It is just one spoonful." Park Jae-won stayed calm. "Humor me," he said. Kim So-yeon did not reach for the bowl. "I said I am not hungry," she replied. "You eat it." He held the bowl a little closer toward her. "Just one spoonful," he said again. For a very short moment, something changed in Kim So-yeon's eyes. It happened so fast that if Park Jae-won had not been watching very carefully, he would have missed it. She took a small step back. "No," she said too quickly. "I told you I am not hungry." The room went very still. Park Jae-won put the bowl down calmly, but his eyes were completely different now. "Okay," he said quietly. "I will eat later." Kim So-yeon looked at his face, trying to understand what he was thinking. Then she smiled again, but this time the smile looked like something she had to put on. "Fine," she said. "But do not forget you need your strength." She picked up her bag and walked toward the door. "I am going out for a few hours," she said. "Wedding planner, then spa. I will see you this afternoon." "Drive safe," Park Jae-won said. When the front door closed and her car left the driveway, Park Jae-won did not move for a long time. Then he slowly sat back down and looked at Benita. The little girl was staring at the bowl. "You saw that, did you not?" she asked quietly. She would not eat it. Park Jae-won did not answer right away. He carefully picked up the bowl without touching the inside and placed it in a plastic bag for evidence. Then he looked at the sesame oil jar for a few seconds and closed it again. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, but there was something cold in it now. "Benita," he said, "from this moment on, you tell no one what you told me, not even Grace, your mother. Do you understand?" Benita nodded. He sealed the bag and set it on the counter. "Do you know what you did this morning?" he asked. Benita shook her head. "You may have just saved my life," Park Jae-won said quietly. Benita was silent for a moment. Then she spoke in a voice that sounded much older than a little girl should sound. "I did not do it because you are rich," she said. "I did it because she tried to buy me. And my mother, Grace, says people who try to buy children are never good people." Park Jae-won looked at her for a long time and slowly nodded. That night, Park Jae-won did not go to sleep at his normal time. Around 9 o'clock, he heard Kim So-yeon's car return. A few minutes later, the front door opened and closed. Her heels clicked on the floor. She appeared at his study door, smiling. "You are still working?" she asked softly. "You really need to rest, Jae-won." He leaned back in his chair and looked at her for a long moment. "Come in," he said. "I want to ask you something." Kim So-yeon stepped into the room looking calm and curious. "That sounds serious," she said lightly. "What is it?" He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit down." She sat crossing her legs. "You are making me nervous," she said with a soft laugh. Park Jae-won folded his hands on the desk and looked straight at her. "Is there anything you want to tell me?" he asked. "Anything at all. Something you have been hiding. Something I should know before we get married." For just a fraction of a second, something moved in her eyes. Then she smiled again. The same warm smile he had trusted for over a year. "Jae-won," she said softly. "Why would you ask me that?" "Of course there is nothing. What is this about?" He leaned back slightly, like a man who is embarrassed. "Maybe I am just tired," he said. "Running a company makes you suspicious. You start to think everyone wants something from you." Kim So-yeon relaxed a little and reached across the desk, placing her hand over his. "I am not everyone," she said. "I am the woman who loves you." Park Jae-won looked down at her hand on his, then back up at her face. "I know," he said quietly. "I just needed to hear you say it." She smiled. "You are working too hard. That is all this is. After the wedding, things will be different. You will not have to carry everything alone anymore." He nodded slowly. "Maybe you are right." They talked a little longer about the wedding, the guest list, a charity dinner they were supposed to attend. Kim So-yeon was calm and warm and completely normal. If Park Jae-won had not seen the way she refused the porridge that morning, if Benita had not spoken, he would have believed every single word. After Kim So-yeon went to bed, Park Jae-won picked up his phone and called Mr. Han. "I need 2 things," he said quietly. "First, I want the sesame oil jar tested right away, not just for sleeping pills, for anything, heart medication, sedatives, anything that can cause long-term damage in small doses." Mr. Han said he would take it to a lab first thing in the morning. "What is the second thing?" he asked. "I want the security footage from the kitchen," Park Jae-won said. "Between midnight and 2 this morning. Do not let anyone in the house system know you are accessing it." "I will handle it tonight," Mr. Han said. After the call, Park Jae-won walked to his private monitoring room near his study. Most people who visited his home thought it was just a storage room. Only a few people knew it held the entire security system for the property. He closed the door and turned on the monitors. Camera 3, kitchen. He went back to the night before. 12:47 in the morning. The kitchen was dark. Only the small light under the cabinet was on. Then the door opened and Kim So-yeon walked in, wearing her silk robe. Park Jae-won felt his chest tighten as he watched the screen. She walked to the counter, opened her bag, and took out a small white bottle. She looked around once to make sure she was alone. Then she took a spoon from the drawer and began to crush the pills very carefully on the counter. Park Jae-won leaned closer to the screen. She opened the sesame oil jar, crushed the pills into it, stirred slowly and carefully, then used the back of the spoon to smooth the surface so it looked completely untouched. After that, she put the bottle back in her bag, turned off the small light, and left the kitchen quietly. Park Jae-won did not move for a long time. He replayed the video once, then again, then a third time, watching every single movement, every detail, every moment of her face. She knew exactly what she was doing. He finally turned off the monitor and stood in the dark room, his hand resting on the edge of the desk. For the first time since his late wife had died years ago, he felt that same cold, hollow feeling inside his chest. The feeling that the ground you thought you were standing on was not solid at all. If you are enjoying this story about a Korean billionaire CEO who discovered that the woman he was about to marry was slowly poisoning him at his own breakfast table, and it took a little black girl named Benita to save his life, and you are yet to subscribe to this channel, kindly subscribe right now and turn on your notifications so you never miss any of our stories. Please also like this video and drop a comment telling us where you are watching from. We love hearing from you. Now let us continue. He returned to his study and sat down heavily in his chair. A few minutes later, there was a soft knock on the door. "Sir," Benita's voice came from the other side. "Are you awake?" "Yes," Park Jae-won said. "Come in." Benita stepped inside, holding her small cloth doll tightly. She looked at his face and immediately knew something had changed. "You saw the camera, did you not?" she asked quietly. Park Jae-won nodded once. "Yes," he said. "I saw everything." Benita was silent for a moment. "I told you the truth," she said softly. "I know," he replied. He looked at the small girl standing in the middle of his study. She was the only person in the house who had told him the truth. "Benita," he said, his voice calm but different now. Harder, more focused. "From now on, we have to be very careful. She thinks you took the money and stayed quiet. We have to let her keep thinking that." Benita nodded slowly. "Tomorrow morning," he continued, "everything will look normal. I will eat breakfast. I will go to work. I will talk about the wedding. I will smile. And while she thinks she is winning, we will find out everything." Benita held her cloth doll tighter. "Are we going to catch her?" she asked. Park Jae-won looked toward the hallway. His eyes were cold and steady. "Yes," he said quietly. "We are." The next morning, the Seoul mansion looked exactly the same as always. Sunlight moved across the kitchen floor. The coffee machine hummed softly. The smell of warm rice porridge and fresh barley tea filled the air. Everything felt familiar, like nothing in the world had changed. But Park Jae-won knew something had. He walked into the kitchen wearing a dark suit and a calm expression, the same expression he used before important negotiations. Kim So-yeon was already there preparing breakfast. She turned and smiled when she saw him. "Good morning," she said brightly. "I made breakfast early today. I thought we could eat together for once." Park Jae-won smiled back. That is a rare honor, he said. His eyes moved just for 1 second to the sesame oil jar on the counter. Same jar, same smooth surface. If he had not seen the footage the night before, he would have seen nothing at all. She slid his bowl of rice porridge toward him. Both portions had sesame oil on them. She said no excuses today. You are taking very good care of me lately, he said, looking up at her. She smiled and leaned against the counter. Someone has to, she replied. You work too hard. You forget to eat. You forget to sleep. If I do not take care of you, who will? That is a good question, he said quietly. She did not notice anything different in his tone. She walked around and sat across from him with her barley tea. You have your meetings this morning? She asked. Yes, he said. And a call with the lawyers this afternoon. The lawyers, she repeated. Her tone was casual, but her eyes sharpened just slightly. What for? Park Jae-won picked up his barley tea and blew on it slowly before answering. Just updating some documents, he said. Company structure, board voting rights, things like that. She nodded slowly. You never stop, do you? She said. Even your paperwork has paperwork. He smiled faintly. That is what happens when you build something big. You spend the rest of your life protecting it. And who protects you? She asked softly. He looked at the rice porridge in front of him, the sesame oil sitting on top slowly mixing in. That, he said, is also a very good question. At the far end of the kitchen, Benita was wiping the counter. Quiet and careful, not looking at either of them, but listening to every word. Kim So-yeon told him to eat before the porridge got cold. He picked up his soup spoon and held it. He told her he had been thinking the night before about trust. About how strange it is that we trust people with our lives without ever testing that trust. She laughed lightly. You sound like a philosopher this morning, she said. Let me ask you something, he said. If you thought someone was trying to hurt me, would you tell me the truth even if it was dangerous for you? She looked at him, her expression soft, almost offended. Of course I would, she said. Why would you even ask that? He nodded as if satisfied. Then you will not mind helping me, he said. He held the bowl of rice porridge toward her. Just 1 spoonful. Kim So-yeon did not move. The whole kitchen seemed to freeze. She looked at the porridge, then at him, and smiled like she thought he was joking. Eat your own food, she said. I will, he said calmly. Right after you take 1 spoonful. Her smile stayed on her face, but her eyes changed. Jae-won, she said softly. What is this? Some kind of test? He shrugged slightly. Maybe, he said. Humor me. She leaned back, crossing her arms. I already ate earlier, she said. I am not hungry. It is just 1 spoonful, he repeated. If there is nothing wrong with it, then it should not matter. She laughed again, but this time the laugh sounded very thin. I am not eating your porridge, Jae-won, she said. He put the bowl back on the table quietly. Okay, he said. Then I will not eat it either. Her eyes narrowed slightly. What is going on with you? She asked. You are acting very strange. Am I? He said. I feel perfectly normal. No, you do not, she said. You are testing me. I can see it, but I do not understand why. He looked at her for a long moment, then leaned back in his chair. Let me ask you one more question, he said, and this time I want you to think very carefully before you answer. She did not speak. Is there anything you want to tell me? He asked quietly. Before we get married. Anything at all. Her face went completely still. I already answered that last night, she said slowly. No, there is nothing. He nodded once as if he had expected that answer. All right, he said. Then we are done with this conversation. He stood up, poured his barley tea into the sink and turned back to her. I am going to the office, he said. I might be late tonight. Do not wait up. She stood up too. Jae-won, she said, her voice tight now. You are scaring me. Did I do something wrong? He looked at her, really looked at her, trying to see the woman he thought he loved and the woman he had seen on the security footage at the same time. No, he said quietly. Not yet. He picked up his car keys and walked toward the door. As he passed Benita, he said in a completely normal voice, Thank you for cleaning the kitchen. Yes, sir, Benita said softly. When the front door closed and the sound of his car faded down the long driveway, Kim So-yeon stood in the kitchen without moving. Then slowly, she turned her head and looked at Benita. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Kim So-yeon walked toward her slowly. Her heels clicked on the floor. Her face was no longer warm, no longer kind. She stopped in front of Benita and spoke in a low, cold voice. Did you say something to him? She asked. Benita shook her head immediately. No, ma'am. Kim So-yeon stared at her for a few seconds, searching her face for guilt or fear. Then she reached into her bag and took out another envelope, thicker than the first one. She placed it on the counter in front of Benita. Smart girls know when to stay quiet, she said quietly. And smart girls know when an opportunity can change their whole lives. Benita looked at the envelope but did not touch it. Kim So-yeon leaned closer. Because if you are not a smart girl, she said in a whisper, this house can become a very difficult place for your mother Grace to work. Then she straightened up, smiled like nothing had happened, and walked out of the kitchen. Benita stood there alone, staring at the envelope on the counter. Her hands slowly curled into fists. At the end of the driveway, Park Jae-won sat in his car but did not start the engine. He was looking at his phone at the message Mr. Han had just sent. Lab results confirmed. The sesame oil contains a beta-blocker compound in an abnormal amount. Long-term use in high doses can cause severe heart failure. Park Jae-won read it twice, then a third time. Outside his window, the morning looked bright and peaceful like any other day, but he now knew the truth with complete certainty. The woman he was going to marry was trying to kill him, and the war inside his own house had just begun. He drove out of the gate, turned the corner, and parked under a row of tall trees where the house could not be seen from the road. He turned off the engine and sat in silence, both hands on the wheel, his mind moving faster than it had in years. He had built companies from nothing, survived lawsuits, hostile takeovers, market crashes, men who smiled while trying to ruin him. In his world, when someone tried to destroy you, you did not panic. You gathered information. You stayed calm. You let the other side believe they were smarter than you. He picked up his phone and called Mr. Han. I got the lab result, he said. Mr. Han confirmed it. A beta-blocker compound in the sesame oil, enough to cause heart failure over time. Mr. Han was quiet for a moment. This is not an accident, he said. This is planned. Slow poisoning is hard to detect unless someone is looking for it. Park Jae-won looked out through the windshield. She does not want a scandal, he said. She wants a funeral. What is the plan? Mr. Han asked. In business, Park Jae-won said slowly, when someone tries to steal your company, you do not confront them immediately. You watch who they talk to. You follow the money. You find out who else is involved. You think she is working with someone? Mr. Han asked. I do not think she is smart enough to plan all of this alone, Park Jae-won said. There is money involved, insurance, legal documents, timing. Someone is advising her. I will start digging into her finances and phone records, Mr. Han said. Everything I can find. But Park Jae-won, if she is willing to poison you, she is willing to do worse if she thinks you know. I know, Park Jae-won said. That is exactly why she cannot know. He ended the call and drove back to the house. When he walked into the kitchen, it was too quiet. Benita was standing exactly where he had left her, the envelope still on the counter. She looked up quickly when he came in. You came back, sir, she said, surprised. He nodded and walked to the counter. He looked at the envelope but did not touch it. Did she say anything else to you after I left? He asked. Benita nodded slowly. She asked if I told you something, she said. I told her no. Then she gave me more money. She said, smart girls, stay quiet. She said this house can become very difficult for Grace if I am not smart. Park Jae-won's jaw tightened slightly. She threatened Grace, he said. He picked up the envelope. It was very thick, full of cash. More money than Grace probably made in several months of work. He put it back down on the table. Leave it there, he said. Do not spend it. Do not move it. It is evidence now. Proof that she tried to buy your silence. Are you going to tell the police now? Benita asked. Not yet, he said. We still do not know everything. I want to know who is helping her, and I want proof that no one can argue with. He walked to the fridge, opened it, and looked at the condiment shelf. There were 2 sesame oil jars now. The poisoned one he had already removed, and a new one Kim So-yeon must have bought that morning. She replaced it, he said quietly. Benita walked closer. So she knows you did not eat the porridge, she said. Yes, he replied. And that makes her nervous. Nervous people make mistakes. He closed the fridge and leaned against the counter. Listen to me carefully, he said, looking at Benita. From now on, nothing changes. You take the money. You act like you believe her. You act like you are on her side. Benita's eyes went wide. You want me to pretend to help her? Yes, he said. Because if she thinks you are on her side, she will talk in front of you. She will make phone calls. She will say things she should not say to anyone. Benita was quiet for a long moment. That is lying, she said. He nodded slowly. Yes, it is, he said, and I do not like it. But sometimes when someone is doing something very wrong, the only way to stop them is to let them think you do not see what they are doing. Benita looked at the envelope. I do not like her, she said quietly. I know, Park Jae-won replied. Neither do I. Not anymore. He walked to the sink, poured himself a glass of water, and drank it slowly. When he set the glass down, his hands were steady again. His mind was clear. Here is what is going to happen, he said. Tonight I will tell her I went to the doctor because I have been feeling tired. I will say the doctor thinks I might have heart problems. Benita looked up quickly. So she thinks the poison is working? Exactly, he said. If she believes it is working, she will get comfortable. And when people get comfortable, they get careless. He walked back to the table and looked at the envelope one more time. Do you know why people like her always lose in the end? He asked. Benita shook her head. Because they think money makes them smarter than everyone else, he said. They think poor people see nothing. They think children understand nothing. They think kindness is weakness. He paused, then added quietly, They are wrong. At that moment they heard the sound of Kim So-yeon's car returning much earlier than expected. Benita's eyes went nervous. She is back, she whispered. Park Jae-won's face changed instantly, all emotion gone, replaced by the calm, polite expression he wore in public. Remember, he said quietly, you told me nothing. You took the money. You are scared. You want to protect Grace. That is the story now. Benita nodded, though her hands were shaking slightly. The front door opened. A moment later, Kim So-yeon walked into the kitchen, her eyes moving immediately from Park Jae-won to Benita, to the envelope on the table. She smiled slowly. I see you found my little gift, she said softly. Benita looked down, playing her part. Yes, ma'am, she said quietly. Kim So-yeon looked at Park Jae-won. You are home early, she said. I thought you had meetings all day. He loosened his tie slightly and gave a tired smile. I did not feel well, he said. So I went to see a doctor. Her eyes sharpened. A doctor? Why? He walked to the chair and sat down heavily, like a man who was exhausted. He says my heart is not doing well, he said quietly. Too much stress. Too many years of work. He wants to run more tests. Kim So-yeon did not speak. But for the first time since Park Jae-won had known her, he saw something she could not hide fast enough. Happiness. It flashed across her face for less than 1 second. But he saw it. And in that moment he knew something with complete certainty. This was no longer suspicion or fear or doubt. This was war. That evening, Kim So-yeon became kinder than usual. She asked twice if he needed anything. She offered to cook herself instead of letting Grace handle the meal. She brought him barley tea. She watched him when she thought he was not looking. She checked if he finished his rice porridge. She asked what time he would leave for work the next day and what time he would be home. She was building a schedule in her head, a timeline. Later that night, Park Jae-won sat in the living room, pretending to read. Kim So-yeon sat across from him with her laptop open, looking at wedding venues. The sound of a traditional Korean gyeojeum played softly in the background, something slow and beautiful. This one is wonderful, she said, turning the screen toward him. A cliffside resort in Jeju Island. Very private, very elegant. We could have the ceremony at sunset. Park Jae-won looked at the photos and nodded. It is nice, he said. Nice? She repeated with a small smile. I am planning our wedding, Jae-won. You are supposed to say it is perfect. He looked at her and smiled faintly. It is perfect, he said. She studied his face for a moment, then closed the laptop. You seem very calm for a man who was just told he might have heart problems, she said. When you build companies for a living, you learn to live with bad news, he said. Markets fall, partners leave, lawyers call. You get used to the idea that everything can disappear very quickly. She tilted her head slightly. That is a very dark way to look at life, she said. It is a very realistic way, he replied. She was quiet for a moment. Then she stood up and walked behind his chair, resting her hands lightly on his shoulders. You are not going to disappear, she said softly. I am here now. You are not alone anymore. Park Jae-won looked straight ahead without moving. Yes, he said quietly. That is what I used to think too. Her hands paused for a fraction of a second. Then she leaned down and kissed his cheek. Get some rest, she said. You look tired. After she went upstairs, Park Jae-won waited exactly 10 minutes. Then he stood up, turned off the lights, and walked quietly toward the back of the house. He knocked softly on the small door near the kitchen. Benita opened it almost immediately, like she had been waiting. Sir, she said, stepping aside so he could come in. The small staff kitchen was warm and smelled faintly of dish soap and rice. Grace was already asleep in the next room, after a long day of work. Park Jae-won sat down at the small table. It looked almost too small for a man like him. A man who owned boardrooms, and buildings, and companies. Has she said anything else to you today? He asked quietly. Benita nodded. She asked me if you ate all your rice porridge, she said. I told her yes. Good, he said. That was the right answer. Did she say anything else? Benita hesitated. She also asked what time you went to bed last night and what time you woke up this morning. Park Jae-won nodded slowly. She is trying to learn my routine, he said. She wants to know when I am alone, when something can happen and look like an accident. Benita looked down at her hands. She scares me, sir, she said quietly. Park Jae-won was silent for a moment. Then he said something very calm and very steady. She should be scared of you, Benita. Benita looked up surprised. Me? Yes, he said, because you are the only person in this house she could not control. She tried money, now she is trying fear. That means she does not know what to do with you. Benita did not look convinced. I am not strong, she said. Park Jae-won shook his head. Strength is not about size, he said. It is about what you do when you are scared. And you told the truth, even when she offered you more money than you have probably ever seen in your life. He leaned forward slightly. That is strength. Benita was quiet, thinking about that. Tomorrow, he continued, I am going to start acting sicker, more tired, maybe dizzy. If she thinks the medicine is working, she will want to move faster. What if she tries something different? Benita asked quietly. Not the sesame oil. Something else? He nodded slowly. That is exactly what I am worried about. He reached into his pocket and placed a small device on the table. It looked like a simple keychain. What is that? Benita asked. It is a panic button, he said. If you ever feel like you are in danger, you press this. It sends a signal to my security company right away. They will call me and the police immediately. Benita looked at the small device but did not touch it. You think she would hurt me? She asked. Park Jae-won did not lie. I think she would hurt anyone who could destroy her plan, he said. Benita slowly picked up the keychain and held it tightly in her hand. Sir, she said after a moment. Why is she doing this? You were kind to her. You were going to marry her. He leaned back and looked at the small ceiling light above them. When I was young, he said I thought people did bad things because they were poor or desperate or without education. But I've met many very rich people in my life, Benita. And I learned something. Some people do not want money because they need it. Some people want money because it makes them feel powerful. And power is like a drug. Once someone wants it badly enough, they stop caring about who gets hurt. Benita was quiet for a long time after that. So what do we do now? She asked. Park Jae-won stood up from the small table. Now we wait, he said. We watch. And we let her believe that everything is going exactly the way she planned. He walked to the door, then stopped and looked back at Benita. But remember this, he said quietly. From this moment on, everything in this house is a performance. Every meal, every conversation, every smile. We are on a stage now. Benita nodded slowly. And her? She asked. Park Jae-won's face became very still. She thinks she is writing the story, he said. But she forgot something very important. What? Benita asked. He looked at the small panic button in her hand, then back at her face. She is not the only one who knows how to plan. The next 2 days passed in a strange quiet tension that never left the house. Park Jae-won played his role carefully. He walked a little slower than usual. He pressed his fingers lightly against his chest sometimes as if testing a small pain. He forced tired smiles when Kim So-yeon looked at him. You look tired, she said immediately one morning. Did not sleep well, he replied. My heart was racing a little last night. Her eyes flickered for just a second. Concern appeared on her face, but it came too quickly. Like a switch being turned on. She prepared breakfast each morning, moving naturally and confidently. Like someone who had done this many times before. She used the new sesame oil jar she had bought. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Benita stood near the sink, drying dishes that were already dry, her eyes lifting just enough occasionally to watch what Kim So-yeon was doing. Park Jae-won ate his rice porridge very slowly. He made sure to eat the plain rice, but barely touched anything that had the sesame oil on it. Kim So-yeon noticed immediately. He told her his doctor said to cut down. Cholesterol. Your doctor is trying to take all the joy out of your life, she said, smiling. First stress, now sesame oil. He smiled faintly. I never liked porridge that much anyway, he said. Later that afternoon, Park Jae-won stayed home telling Kim So-yeon he was waiting for a call from the doctor. Instead, he was in his study with Mr. Han, who arrived quietly through the back entrance. Mr. Han was in his 60s, gray hair, a lined face, the patient eyes of a man who had spent his whole life watching people lie. Park Jae-won showed him the security footage. Mr. Han watched it once, then again, then leaned back in the chair and exhaled slowly. That is as clear as it gets, he said. Crushing pills, mixing them into the sesame oil. No court in the world would misunderstand that. I want to know who she is working with, Park Jae-won said. And I want to know how long this has been going on. Mr. Han nodded. I have been looking into her finances, he said. On paper, everything looks normal. But there are large transfers over the past 6 months. Money coming in from a company I have never heard of. Name? Park Jae-won asked. Mr. Han opened his notebook. Jade Peak Consulting. Park Jae-won frowned. I do not know that company. I did not think you would, Mr. Han said. It is a shell company. No real office, no employees listed. But a lot of money moves through it. A lot. Park Jae-won was quiet for a moment. Follow the money, he said. That is where the truth always is. Mr. Han nodded. There is something else, he added. Kim So-yeon took out a life insurance policy on you 3 months ago. $500 million. She is the primary beneficiary. Park Jae-won let out a quiet breath through his nose. Not surprise. Confirmation. 3 months, he said. That is about when she started insisting on making breakfast herself. And adding sesame oil to his porridge every single morning. Mr. Han closed his notebook. Park Jae-won, this is not just a bad idea. This is a business plan. Park Jae-won gave a small, humorless smile. I know, he said. I have written business plans before. At that moment, there was a soft knock on the study door. Sir. Benita's voice came through. She is on the phone in the garden. She said she did not want to take the call inside. Park Jae-won and Mr. Han exchanged a quick look. That is new, Park Jae-won said quietly. Stay here, he told Mr. Han. He walked quietly through the hallway and out the side door that led toward the garden. He moved slowly, staying behind the tall hedges until he could hear Kim So-yeon's voice. He went to the doctor, she was saying. They think it is his heart. He is tired all the time now. He barely eats his rice porridge. It is working. Park Jae-won felt something cold settle in his stomach. There was a pause while the person on the other end spoke. "No, not yet, Kim," So-yeon said. "We cannot rush it. If he dies too suddenly, people will ask questions. It has to look natural. Stress. Heart failure. He is in his 40s. He works too much. It is believable." Another pause. "Yes, I know about the $500 million insurance," she said. "But the company is worth much more than that. Once we are married, I get control until everything is transferred. That is the real money." Her voice went lower. "Just make sure the paperwork is ready. When it happens, I do not want any delays with the accounts." She ended the call and stood there looking peacefully across the garden in the late afternoon sun. Park Jae-won stepped back quietly before she could see him and walked back toward the house. His face was completely expressionless. When he returned to the study, Mr. Han looked up immediately. "She is not working alone," Park Jae-won said. "There is someone else, and they are already planning what happens after I die." Mr. Han's jaw tightened. "Did she say who?" "No," Park Jae-won said. "But she mentioned paperwork, accounts, transfers. This is about control of the company, not just the $500 million insurance." Mr. Han nodded slowly. "Then we do not just need to catch her poisoning you," he said. "We need to catch the whole plan." Park Jae-won walked to the window and looked out at the garden where Kim So-yeon had been standing just minutes ago. "Good," he said quietly, "because I do not just want to survive this." He turned back to Mr. Han. His eyes were cold and focused. "I want to destroy their entire plan." That night, Park Jae-won opened a locked drawer in his study and took out a thin black notebook. Inside were handwritten notes, names, numbers, observations. The kind of notebook a man keeps when he has learned that memory alone is not enough in a world where people lie. He wrote one name at the top of a blank page, Kim So-yeon. Under it, he began to write everything he knew so far. Life insurance policy. $500 million. 3 months ago. Shell company Jade Peak Consulting. Unknown owner. Phone call. Male partner. Timeline discussions. Accounts. Transfers after death. Heart medication. Beta blocker mixed into sesame oil. Witness Benita. Bribery. Cash envelope. Threat against Grace. He put the pen down and looked at the page for a long time. "This is not just murder," he said quietly. "This is a takeover." Mr. Han, sitting across from him, nodded. "They do not just want you dead," he said. "They want everything you built." Park Jae-won closed the notebook. "Then we make sure they do not get it." The next morning, Park Jae-won changed his routine. Instead of going straight to the office, he called attorney Shin Ji-yeon, his lawyer of almost 15 years. Sharp, calm, almost impossible to shake. They met at a quiet restaurant that did not attract business crowds. She took one look at his face and said, "This is not a social lunch, is it?" "No," Park Jae-won said. "It is not." He told her enough. "I want to change my will," he said. "And I want to change who has temporary control of JW Global Holdings if something happens to me." Attorney Shin Ji-yeon did not look surprised. She nodded and took out a pen. "Tell me what you want changed," she said. "If I die," Park Jae-won said, "I do not want Kim So-yeon to have control of the company. Not even temporarily. Everything goes into a trust. You and Mr. Han will be co-executives. No major decisions. No sale of shares. No transfer of control for at least 1 year after my death." She looked at him carefully. "That is very specific," she said. "Are you expecting to die soon?" Park Jae-won met her eyes. "I am expecting someone might be planning for me too," he said. She did not ask any more questions. She had worked with powerful people too long to be shocked easily. "I will prepare the documents," she said. "But if this is what I think it is, you need to be very careful." "I know," Park Jae-won replied. When he returned home that afternoon, the house was too quiet again. He was starting to hate the silence of his own home. He found Benita in the kitchen doing homework. She looked up when he walked in. "Did you find out who she was talking to?" Benita asked immediately. "Not yet," he said. But we are getting closer. Did she say anything today? Benita nodded. She asked if you took your medicine, she said. Park Jae-won frowned. What medicine? She said she might start giving you special vitamins because the doctor said your heart is weak, Benita explained. She told me that if she ever gives me a glass with a pill in it, I should make sure you drink all of it. Park Jae-won felt a slow, cold anger move through him. She is changing the plan, he said quietly. The sesame oil was too slow. She wants something faster, something she can control directly. Benita looked scared.
What are we going to do, sir?
He leaned forward slightly. We are going to give her what she wants, he said.
We will give her the opportunity.